the Smile Code Podcast. I'm Dr. AC Quaidu. I'm excited that you're back to share some of your valuable time with me as we continue to delve into the Smile Code, the set of concepts, principles, and stories that will help you to rediscover and nurture your authentic self and allow you to radiate and express that through a healthy, happy, and exquisite smile. This is what I call Smile Mastery, and Smile Mastery allows you to step into your greatness and live with more confidence and bliss, and allows you to celebrate more fully the phenomenal being that you truly are. Today, the concept I'd like to touch on is the NLP Communication Model, which explains how our brain inputs and processes information. There's a famous quote that states that if you do what you've always done, you will get what you've always gotten. Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result has also been dubbed the definition of insanity. Now, NLP is the acronym for Neuro-Linguistic Programming. It is a psychological approach that focuses on the connection between neurological processes, language, and behavioral patterns that have been learned through experience. It was developed in the 1970s by Richard Bandler and John Grinder, and is often used as a tool for personal development, communication skills, and psychotherapy. Richard Bandler was a computer scientist and John Grinder was a linguist, and together they developed NLP by studying and modeling the communication and behavioral patterns of successful therapists, particularly Fritz Perls, a Gestalt therapist, and Virginia Satir, a family therapist, as well as a linguist by the name of Noam Chomsky. The basic premise of NLP is that there is a connection between neurological processes, language, linguistic, and behavioral patterns that have been learned through experience, programming. So NLP practitioners believe that by understanding and consciously changing the way we think, communicate, and behave, individuals can achieve personal and professional success. Here's a simplified explanation of the NLP communication model. The process begins with an external stimulus, which can be any event, any object, or situation in the external environment. The stimulus is the information that our senses perceive. And NLP identifies 5 primary sensory modalities through which people perceive the world. They are the visual senses or sight, our hearing or auditory, our feelings or kinesthetic senses, our sense of smell, the olfactory senses, and lastly the sense of taste or our gustatory senses. After receiving sensory input, a person internally represents or processes the information. This involves creating mental images, sounds, feelings, taste, or smells based on the sensory input. Mind you, these internal representations are subjective and quite unique to each individual. The internal representations influence a person's emotional and physiological state, and the emotional state at any given moment is closely tied to the internal representations. For example, a positive internal representation may lead to a positive emotional state, or in the case of a dental phobic, a negative emotional state stems from a negative internal representation. So the internal representations and emotional states then influence our behavior. So essentially, our actions and reactions are shaped by how we internally represent and respond to external stimuli. This model operates in a continuous feedback loop. Our behavior produces new external stimuli, leading to new sensory input and further internal representations. And this ongoing process shapes our experiences and interactions. The model also considers filters and beliefs as factors that influence the way we process information. Filters are mental processes that selectively interpret delete, or distort sensory input. And it's important to know that beliefs formed over time shape our internal representations, our emotional states, and influence our reactions. So that is the NLP communication model. Understanding this model can be valuable for improving communication, as it highlights the subjective nature of individual experiences and the role of perception in shaping behavior. NLP practitioners use this model to identify patterns, improve rapport, and enhance the effectiveness of communication. So, to recap, you have an external stimulus like a visit to the dentist, and you then get some sensory input, like, for example, the white coat, the office smells, the sound of drills, and the sight of needles. And this leads to an internal representation, which in this particular instance would be a negative response. This negative response then leads to a negative emotional state, which then leads to a behavior, in this case, a stressful response or avoidance of the dentist in future instances. And it's a feedback loop. So our filters and beliefs represent the sequential flow of information in the NLP communication model. External stimuli are perceived through sensory input, leading to internal representation, which leads to emotional states, and ultimately influences our behavior. So the feedback loop emphasizes the continuous nature of this process, and filters and beliefs play a very, very important role in shaping the internal representations and responses. A number of years ago, when I had my practice in Bellevue, a 16-year-old boy who I will call Derek came to see me. His dad had brought him in. They were late because Derek hated coming in to see me, was petrified in fact, and had gone into hiding, and Dad had to go find him. Derek was a foster child, mildly autistic, and had been through the foster care system, going from family to family, and his oral health unfortunately had suffered terribly as a result of it. After a lot of coaxing, we managed to get Derek in the dental chair. We could barely get him to open his mouth when I noticed that his lips were very dry and chapped. So I asked my assistant to get me some Vaseline to moisten his lips. As I began to apply the Vaseline, a thought entered my mind, and without thinking twice about it, I said to Derek, "You're not going to believe this, Derek, but today is your lucky day. This bright red lipstick, Vaseline, is going to brighten things up and get rid of your dry lips at the same time." Now, what happened next took me by complete surprise. Derek, unbeknownst to me, was a very visual and imaginative person, and the visual of a very frightened 16-year-old boy in bright red lipstick in a dental chair was too compelling and hysterical to resist, and he broke out into a smile at first, then hysterical, contagious laughter that got me, the assistant, and practically everyone in the office laughing uncontrollably for a good 5 minutes or so. Other patients in the office at the time didn't know what was so funny, but the laughter was so loud and so contagious that everybody readily joined in. And with tears streaming down our faces from the belly laughter, we finally settled down and went to work. Now, that visual and the ensuing laughter broke the ice for Derek and reframed his perceptions of the dentist and how he felt about being there. And his pattern essentially was interrupted. And as you might have guessed, Derek's phobia disappeared immediately and completely, and we were able to complete the appointment smoothly, and later on at subsequent visits we were able to completely restore his entire mouth with ease. So it was a really good thing that happened that day with Derek. And it goes to show, much like what happened with Norm Cousins in the last episode, that laughter is indeed the best medicine. This story and many others like it demonstrate the power of smiles and humor, and how we can use smiling to improve our moods, reset and reframe stressors in our lives, and interrupt patterns of behavior that don't serve us. So, well, that's it for today. Next time we'll pick up where we left off today and also look at life goals and how they magically tie in with life purpose. Until next time, this is Dr. Isikwedu signing off from the Smile Code podcast. If you enjoyed what you heard here today, please like, share, and subscribe to my channel. And remember to keep smiling. See you soon.